Going into round 7, yeah. Subtract 1, you end up with some number.
Yes.
His opponent is Morgan McCarl. He's playing the Reanimator deck. He's got his 4 Unburial Rights, 3 Mulches, and 4 Grizzly Salvages to get things going. But it looks like he is just on the Junk Reanimator plan here. And yeah, he's got 3 Angel of Serenities. So he's got a little bit of an aggro package in the Junk Reanimator deck. He can open up with Voice of Resurgence and a Restoration Angel and possibly take the game quickly. Or he could just go slow, put stuff in his graveyard, reanimate Angel of Serenity or Acidic Slimes and kind of play the slow, grindy game. And here we go. Andrew Shrout opens up with the Avacyn's Pilgrim. Morgan does not have any acceleration on the first 2 turns.
So he has no Arbor Elf. I mean, he can still have Grizzly Salvage, but you see no Arbor Elf. He has no Mulch or anything, so that's a little bit surprising. No Voice Resurgence either. I mean, this leads me to believe that he almost certainly has a Grizzly Salvage on his end step. You see Shrout putting some lands into play. See what he's going to do on his turn. It's going to be a Farseer, so he's going to accelerate. His Prime Speaker Bant deck, you see Avacyn's Pilgrim in play. He has 3 of those. He also has 2 copies of Arbor Elf. And then we'll get to the meat and potatoes here of Voice of Resurgence, Smiter, Restoration Angel, Thragtusk, Prime Speaker, and Aetherling, and Angel of Serenity. You see Grizzly Salvage here from Morgan, which we thought he'd have. 2 Voice of Resurgences, an Arbor Elf, a Gavany Township, and a Godless Shrine. So we'll see what he's going to take. The spells for Shroud's deck, he has 3 Garruk Relentless, 2 Jace Architect of Thought, 2 Sphinx of Revelations, and 2 Selesnya Charm. This is a deck that was popularized by Matt Sperling and Paul Reitzel. Actually led Sperling to win a PTQ, his qualification for Pro Tour Dublin is as a result of this deck. Now, of course, these versions are a little bit different, but the game plan is overall the same. Draw a bunch of cards, overpower your opponent, and that's how he was able to find his way there. And we'll see if Shrout can keep finding his winning ways with this.
Right, so this Prime Speaker Bant deck is based around Prime Speaker Zagana to some degree, and it uses that as its big closeout card draw engine rather than the Sphinx's Revelation.
Yes, it does have 2 Sphinx Revelations, okay, but it's split them 2 and 2. So two Prime Speakers, 2 Revelations. You know, this isn't your father's Sphinx's Revelation deck. As here's Garruk Relentless to take care of Avacyn's Pilgrim. You know, it does have Revelation, but it's not a deck that's based around Revelation.
Yeah. So Andrew Shrout is establishing his board presence. He has flipped his Garruk into the Curse Veiled, so he can start spitting out some 1/1 Death Touch Wolf tokens.
The cool thing about Shrout's deck too is that by having Garruk in his deck, which again he has 3 copies of, something that you didn't find in any Prime Speaker Bant decks a couple months ago, is that he's able to play some singletons in his deck and kind of spice things up a little bit. Again, he has 1 Aetherling, 1 Angel of Serenity, and then those 2 Prime Speakers Zaganas, so he can actually kind of tutor for his better cards due to Garruk the Veil Curse's minus ability, and be able to actually overpower the opponent and find these singleton bullets that a lot of decks otherwise wouldn't be able to find.
And is this why he's only got 2 Prime Speakers then, because of the ability to?
Yeah, I mean, normally you don't see a lot of Prime Speakers because it's a card that requires some assembly. You need to have a Thragtusk, a Restoration Angel, or a Loxodon Smiter in play. It's not great on its own, so that, you know, there's a reason that they didn't play like 4 of these. But being able to actually tutor and search for one is actually super good in my opinion.
And it's not great in multiples yet.
Yes. Give it time.
Give it another couple of weeks, then you can cast a Prime Speaker, get the tokens off of the first Prime Speaker, and just draw more cards and get rid of the old one.
You know, this is one of the few decks that I think can reasonably play 1 Aetherling and be okay with it, because they can actually find it pretty consistently. This deck has a lot of card draw. It has, you know, a mini tutor engine in the Garruk Relentless / Garruk the Veil Cursed. As you see, Shrout's going to play Restoration Angel on McCarl's end step. But I actually like that this deck only has 1 Aetherling instead of overloading on that card, because as good as that card is, you can't play 3 or 4 of them.
No. That card is also not that great in multiples. You really want to just play 1, protect it, and then go to town. So Andrew Shrout is going to attack with his Restoration Angel, which he flashed in, and the 1/1 Death Touch Wolf. And now he's going to think over his options, probably deciding what to do with his Garruk here.
Real tough guy that Wolf is, real tough.
And there he goes. I'm going to sacrifice that Wolf.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him go get an Aetherling, but he's just going to get a Prime Speaker and just draw some cards. So, I mean, either one, again, this is why I actually kind of like his build of this deck, is because he doesn't have to invest a lot of slots in Prime Speaker or the bullets that he's playing, just a couple of them. The bullets that he is playing, are actually like pretty good natural draws, because Angel of Serenity, Aetherling are so powerful, where a lot of decks that you see Silver Bullets, Ricky, you kind of see some cards that are so situationally dependent. Like just one example is like either Sworn Canonist. In some matchups it's awesome, in some matchups it's absolutely terrible. But you know, his bullets here, or the cards that he's playing 2 or 1 of, they're perfectly reasonable draws on their own, and when you're searching for them, they're also going to be reasonable. Like you see Prime Speaker Zagana right now being absolutely great.
Yeah, 6 mana, and I think that's why he didn't get Aetherling, is because he didn't have the ability to protect it this turn. 6 mana, he's drawing 4 cards off of the Prime Speaker, and yeah, it got severed. Okay, big deal. Just drew 4 cards. Thragtusk is going to try to take down Garruk. Avacyn's Pilgrim steps in the way, takes the bullet. Secret Service Pilgrim there.
I like a lot of what Shrout has done to set up this game so far, because McCarl is just on the back foot. You know, Shrout has all the cards in his hand. He's got Garruk the Veil Curse. He's got Restoration Angel attacking, so he's doing a lot of different things while he's taking his turn. You know, do I want to establish more of a board presence with these Voice Resurgences? Do I want to tutor for Aetherling and be able to protect it? Do I want to draw more cards with Prime Speaker Zagana? He's got all the options. McCarl doesn't really have a ton of options right now, and when you're playing Junk Reanimator, you want to be the one that's presenting the difficult to answer questions, not the one that's actually trying to answer them.
See, to me, that could almost be too many options. And there's a correct line of play here somewhere.
Yes. And
trying to navigate your way through that could be very difficult. So Andrew Shrout, he attacks with the Restoration Angel, activates Garruk to get a 1/1 Wolf, and then casts a Loxodon Smiter, leaving mana up, probably for a Restoration Angel here.
Well, he's certainly representing it, that's for sure. Other things that he can be representing right now, reasonably representing, are Celestia Charm, which he has 2 copies of. Sphinx Revelation for 1, not so much. But you know, the other thing too is that, you know, this deck has been known to play counter magic in some different forms, be it Dissipate, be it Syncopate. It's been known to play Azorius Charm. It's also been known to play Simic Charm. So that mana being there, again, you guys at home, just like us in the booth here, know that he only has Celestia Charm that's actually reasonably cast. But if you're McCarl, you actually have to think about some things, because that mana's up.
And then Morgan plays his own Garruk Relentless, getting rid of the Veil Cursed.
So there is Restoration
Angel. Okay. So Andrew now is in a position here where he's got a Loxodon Smiter on the ground and 2 Restoration Angels in the air and a Gavany Township. He may decide, I mean, obviously he's going to attack, but he may decide to just start activating Township and getting some more damage in.
He might decide that committing threats to the board is completely unnecessary. Yeah. You see that McCarl has to block the Smiter. I wouldn't say he has to, but he chooses to block the Smiter. Shrout doesn't have to activate Township to be able to get the Beast off the table. Obviously 4/4 greater than 3/3. So that attack and these attacks are great for Shrout, to the point where he doesn't actually have to activate Township. And now we might just see him commit some more things to his board, because there's no way for McCarl in his Junk Reanimator deck to actually punish Shrout for doing so. So here comes a Smiter, here comes a Voice of Resurgence, here comes another Voice of Resurgence. So 2 mythics and a rare, and your turn.
And 2 more rares in the Restoration Angels.
Yeah.
All of his lands are probably rares. All rares all the time here in Columbus. Andrew Shrout not messing around with those commons and uncommons. Those just aren't powerful enough.
When you talk at a Pro Tour, you can buy practically anything.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Okay, so Morgan evaluates the board. He puts his hand down, thinking, is there anything I can do here? Where do I start?
Tap 7 mana.
Sever, okay. That's not bad, but now he's tapped out and he's dead to the Gavany Township activation.
I think he's hoping that Shrout misses it, but Shrout's going to do the math here. You're going to see a Township activation and get in for lethal. So Shrout is going to win game number 1 here over Morgan McCarl. Prime Speaker Band up 1 over Junk Reanimator, as we're going to take a look at McCarl's sideboard first, as he is going to be on the plate here. Again, Morgan McCarl, a player from Columbus, Ohio, so very local, does have a top 16 at the TCG Indy 5K. And does actually run his own podcast, but he's going to need more help than his podcast here. What do you got in the sideboard to save him?
He's got a pair of Fiend Hunters and a pair of Deathrite Shamans, 2 Abrupt Decays, 2 Obsidian Ghost Councils, and 2 Sin Collectors. And then he has Singletons, We seem to see this a lot today, is the 2s and 1s.
Yeah.
Got the Singleton Ray of Revelation, Curse of Death's Hold, Slayer of the Wicked. All right.
I've seen some people moving towards that card recently.
A second copy of Sever the Bloodline, and the third copy of Acidic Slime in the sideboard. So he can kind of round out his deck with some of the things he's already doing. You could also see him do, I mean, he wants to bring in more removal into his deck, so the Sever the Bloodline coming in.
Yeah, I like Sever in this matchup a lot. I also like the additional Acidic Slime because I think this is a deck that you can mess with their mana a little bit, especially when you're on the play. So you can get ahead, you can start sliming, Restoration Angeling it, and really just pull ahead and not allow Shrout to come back. And Shrout, again, does have mana accelerants in the form of Absence Pilgrim, Arbor Elf, and Farseek, but I think you want to mess with this mana because, again, the thing that makes a deck like Prime Speaker Bant and Jund Midrange and some of their decks of its ilk so powerful is that when they're able to actually get their mana online and cast multiple spells in a turn, that's when those decks are very difficult to beat.
Okay, so what is Andrew Shrout going to do here, Cedric?
So we take a look at Shrout's sideboard. He does have 3 Unflinching Courage, 2 copies of Garruk Primal Hunter, 2 Syncopates, 2 Detention Spheres, 2 Supreme Verdict, 2 Clone, 1 Soulclash Spider, and 1 Selesnya Charm. One of the things I wanted to look for in his sideboard.
Soulclash Spider.
That's one of the things I actually wanted to look for in his sideboard to see what kind of one-ofs he actually had in the sideboard. You know, kind of harping on the point that Garruk Relentless allows you to play multiple one-ofs. So 1 Silklash Spider he can search up with Garruk the Veil Curse when it's flipped. Additionally, he can search up clones, and clones are a tool that people went to be able to defeat, Angel Serenity.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Esper, you saw Blue White Red go towards clone, because oftentimes it is not the first Angel Serenity that wins the Angel Serenity War, it is the second one. So we might see Shrout go towards that. I don't really like Supreme Verdict or Detention Sphere in this matchup. Don't care for Unflinching Courage or Garruk Primal Hunter. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Syncopate. It's a card that's interesting to see in a sideboard because you wouldn't expect to see a counterspell like that in a sideboard. You expect to see a more focused one, like a Negate, like a Counterflux. You don't often see a Power Sync-esque counterspell in the sideboard, but you're going to find that here because it's kind of this weapon that I think Shrout can catch people off guard with. It's very versatile in what it can counter. There are certainly going to be situations where it doesn't work the way that you'd like it to.
Sure.
But I think the times where he actually does ruin someone with a Syncopate are going to be game-winning effects. So that's why I actually like to see that card.
Exiling an Unburial Rites.
Yes. That's why I actually like to see that card in his sideboard quite a bit here.
Okay, so heading into this round, notable players, Caleb Durward won last round, went to 6-0 coming into round 7. So he's still on path to go undefeated through this tournament. Ben Weinberg holding court, he's at 5-1.
Crushing it with Naya Blitz.
Yeah. And notables at 4-2. Jerry Stompson, as I like to call him, Jeff Hoogland, Justin Uppel, and
Alex Binnick.
Tell us more about Alex Binnick. Do you know him locally?
I don't know him personally, but I do know that, good player, qualified for won a WMCQ last year, so was on the team with Joe Panaccio, Brian Kibler, and Luis Scott Vargas, representing the United States of America last year in the WMC. And he is here in attendance, unfortunately 4-2, so not sure how likely it is that he's going to be able to make top 8 this weekend, but in a handful of Open Series top 8s and was part of the first WMC and one of our first WMCQ winners. So no success probably today. Of course, can still top 16 or get 9th or whatever. And if things break his way, he can top 8. But at the very least, he's going to play it out and see exactly how far he can go.
Cedric, what do you think about the WMC and the WMCQs?
It's okay. I don't love it. The only reason for that is because I think a lot of people know that these aren't the top players in their respective countries representing them. So, if you look at other sports and other games like the Ryder Cup and some other stuff where you actually have a team captain and they select the best players in the world, when you're watching that, it's super interesting because you're watching the best players from each of their countries represent their country. Where, the WMCQ, no flag to any of the players who win WMCQs and qualify, but, last year we had Luis Scott Vargas, Brian Kibler, Joe Panaccio, and Alex Binnick, and that's a good team.
That was a very good team.
We're talking about, those aren't even the best players in the United States. So, you want to see the best players go head to head. Think about, Ricky, if you had, just for example, you've got Josh Utter-Layton, Luis Scott Vargas, I guess I'll say Brian Kibler,
Eric Froelich?
Yeah, Eric Froelich, who's having an insane season. Like, those 4 guys going against Paulo Vitor da Rosa, Willie Edel, and the other two best players from Brazil. I'm not going anywhere. I'm watching that play out for as long as I can. You know, you've got the best Japanese players, Masashi Yoso, Kenji Samura, Shuhei Nakamura, those guys battling out against one of those teams. That's must-see TV if you're a fan of Magic, and that's what I'd like to see for a WMCQ. I want to see the best of the best battling it out in a tournament besides the Players' Championship.
Those are good points, and I'm going to give you my opinion after this game is over.
Sure.
On the WMCQs. Meanwhile, what we have here is Andrew Shrout has built up an army of Loxodons, 4/4 elephants and Loxodon Smiters. Morgan McCall has countered with a Thragtusk. They both accelerated with their 1/1 elves here. So now we're getting into the mid-game. Andrew Shrout with 2 4/4s, Morgan with a 5/3, and a couple of 1/1s hanging out, looking kind of tiny. Morgan still hasn't started to fill up his graveyard with any of his effects, so we'll have to see how this Reanimator deck plays fair, perhaps.
Yeah, Morgan looks like he's playing a very, very fair game right now. He does have 6 mana, so he's 1 land away from casting Angel of Serenity. You see he has a Restoration Angel in his hand. I think Shrout has identified his Restoration Angel in his hand, so maybe attacking here is a little bit risky, but Shrout is going to come in, so no fear here. You're going to see a block. I think we might just see, you know, he gives him the okay. All right, Restoration Angel, blink out Thragtusk, get 5 life, get my Beast token. None of my Loxodon Smiters die, thankfully. So it's going to be a net gain of 1 life there for McCarl. You sound like you don't love that play.
I don't know. I feel like I might have flashed the Restoration before blockers, gotten the Beast, and then traded with a Smiter.
I mean, you can also make the other play of like, all right, you know, flash before blocks, get my Beast, get my 5 life, Thragtusk blocks a Smiter, double block the other Smiter with an Angel and a Beast, and what's the worst that can happen?
Right. Because as we've said, these Reanimator decks have a lot of power in the late game when they start doing things with Angel of Serenity. So I would just want to get rid of some of these Loxodons on the board.
You see McCarl is going to play his 5th land. It is Vault of the Archangel, so he's going to start by serving in with this. He can represent Vault of the Archangels, but it's really interesting that you take a look at his lands. He's only got 1 white land in there in Temple Garden. That's going to be 1 white source. Arbor Elf untapping Temple Garden is going to be that 2nd white source. Avacyn's Pilgrim tapping for white is going to be that 3rd white source. So if he wants to cast Angel of Serenity, he can, but he's going to elect to activate Vault of the Archangels, gain some life, a little Death Touch action here, and just keep pulling farther and farther ahead.
Okay. So that's a reason to keep the creature count high, is so you can gain more life with Vault of the Archangel. Certainly not a bad line here. Now Andrew Shrout flicks his cards. He's currently got access to 5 mana. He's going to attack first.
Aggressive.
Have to get aggressive. Vault of the Archangel, you can't really...
No sense in holding back. You're not going to win in combat, that's for sure.
Passes the turn.
Well, he must not have much going on.
I mean, these days, there could always be a Restoration Angel. That's the thing. Good old Angel Ambush. Looks like Morgan attacking with Restoration Angel and Thragtusk, and yeah, so Andrew blocked the Thragtusk with his Arbor Elf and is now flashing Restoration Angel to blink his Arbor Elf and save it. Fogging the big 5/3 Beast and keeping his Mana Accelerator around, which could be very relevant here. Does nothing and passes the turn.
So a little bit of back and forth. It makes me wonder if he knows that he can cast his his Angel of Serenity. Again, he only does have 1 white land down there, but I'm a little bit surprised that has not hit the battlefield yet. But he does. It looks like he has a Restoration Angel in his hand. So again, he might just be trying to set Shrout up for a bad attack, get some life, maybe cause a blowout.
This is certainly a difficult attack to have to make, to be forced to make. Restoration Angel. I thought, okay, sure, reset the Thragtusk, get a Beast. I thought he was saving it for a Vault activation there to just trade his Elves for some Smiters. But instead, Morgan is going to bounce the Restoration Angels, trade the Beasts, and
I like this block. Again, he wants to keep as many creatures as he can on the table.
Yeah.
Because he has Vault of the Archangel, while eliminating some of Shrout's, so that McCarl can't lose the race. And I actually like that quite a bit.
Yeah, the 5 power on the Thragtusk is a lot of life to gain off of lifelink here with the Vault. And now also with 2 Restoration Angels, he is able to continue to chip away at Andrew's life while still maintaining his life total thanks to this lifelink.
So we'll see what kind of blockers Shrout's going to have. You see Arbor Elf is going to bite the dust, it's going to fall underneath the Thragtusk. Shrout's going to cast Sphinx's Revelation. It's going to be for 4, so he's going to get a little deeper into his deck. You know, cards that he can draw to kind of get himself out of the situation do include Supreme Verdict, which is in his sideboard. Makes you wonder if he did bring it in for this particular matchup or not, as it would do a nice job of getting him out from underneath this hole.
And Arbor Elf goes away.
Again, the big question here is, does McCarl know that he can cast that Angel Serenity? Again, he has a Temple Garden and Arbor Elf and Avacyn's Pilgrim. That does equal 3 white mana. And Enrique, we did not see him activate Vault of the Archangels, but he might be using it defensively now.
Again, there is that option. He's playing around with his last card. Yeah, I thought he would just go for gaining 11 life there off that attack. Andrew surveys the board, looks at his hand. His hand is still stocked full, thanks to that Sphinx's Revelation. He's evaluating what he's going to do.
You see our life totals here. McCarl 17, Shrout at 10. Shrout with a bit of an uphill climb here. Again, Vault of the Archangel is this really interesting card where it's this really powerful land. Again, a land, excuse me, that 1 taps for mana, 2 gives lifelink, 3 gives death touch. You know, is just ridiculously powerful, as most of those lands from Innistrad were. But you know, there is a cost associated to that, in which it just only does tap for colorless mana. And we're talking about a deck that is very color intensive. You've got Thragtusk, you've got Restoration Angel, you've got Angel Serenity, Grizzly Salvage. You know, you've got a deck that's super mana intensive, so playing one of those is not free. Now, if things work out like they are right now, then it looks absolutely fantastic because it's not causing you any problems. But the games where it does cause you problems, makes you wonder if it's worth, you know, the risk of playing that card.
Yeah, and when you activate it, it eats your turn up too.
Yes. There's definitely a very real cost associated to playing that card in your deck. As Shrout, you see, has cast a Jace Architect of Thought. He's moved that one on up, and he's just going to pass the turn back. So he realizes that he needs to play a little bit more defensively because the race does not favor him, and Vault of the Archangels is one card that makes the race incredibly difficult.
Yeah, and it is going to be difficult here because at the very least, Morgan can attack with the 2 Restoration Angels. And if Andrew blocks with his own Restoration Angel, Vault activation can take down Andrew's Angel while leaving Morgan's. So, we have the Jace activation pending. The triggered ability is pending. And here's the combat. It says attack Jace. Now here's the thing with the Jace triggers.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up, but I had a feeling you would beat me to it.
Yeah, you don't have to necessarily... Okay, so we have an indication that Andrew did point out the Jace triggers as soon as the Angels attacked. But you don't have to point them out now until the effect would become relevant. So in this case, that's usually when damage is dealt.
Sure.
You just have to say, okay, I will take 2 each from those Angels.
Gotcha.
And that's enough. Even though it triggers when the creatures are declared as an attack. But Andrew did remember to point out his Jace, so we now know that those Angels are 2 4s.
Well, considering that Mr. Shrout did make the top 8 of that Pro Tour Dragons Maze in San Diego with Jace Architect of Thought in his deck, I would be very surprised to see him miss a trigger with that card.
I played with Jace in an Esper control deck.
Two things I would never do, by the way.
I don't believe I ever forgot the trigger, but I did mess up his -2 by putting the cards in the graveyard instead of the bottom of the library.
They go in the bottom.
Yeah. And my opponent pointed out, I'm like, oh yeah, because one of the cards was Lingering Souls. It's like, that would be a little too good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would probably be just a smidge too good if it went to the graveyard. It would certainly make splitting it a lot more difficult.
Okay, Andrew pushes the Restoration Angel forward to block one of them. Morgan activates Vault of the Archangel, so Death Touch deals with that resto. And Morgan's gonna gain 4 life.
So this is interesting because the Jace Architect of Thought has moved down to 3, which means Morgan attacked it with one of those angels, if not both. But I feel like one went to Andrew and one went to his Jace. But I don't think that Jace is the relevant card on this table at all right now, as you're going to see Shrout going to pull over 3, give them -2. Prime Speaker Zagana, Sun Petal Grove and Farseek. Quick split there from McCarl saying Prime Speaker or bust, which means that it looks like he's pretty scared of Shrout drawing 4 cards.
It's gonna be 5 cards.
Or 5 cards, thank you.
4 counters from the Loxodon Smiter's power, and then 1 native power. That is the biggest merfolk you ever did see. I guess that happened in the Simic, what is it?
The Simic Combine?
Combine? That's very different from the NFL Combine. I don't think they mutate their players.
Well,
we're not going to talk about PEDs today.
Are you sure?
It's a touchy subject for me as a baseball fan.
You don't think they mutate their... I actually do think they mutate their players. I'll say it.
All right.
Yeah.
So Andrew did take the Prime Speaker because why not? I like drawing 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The one thing that Shrout's trying to do right now is he's just trying to, he needs to get deeper and deeper into his deck and, try to push some sort of advantage, which he's having a difficult time doing, as you can see. But, he's trying to catch up and, really gum up the board and then just pull ahead because he has so many more cards than McCarl does. He needs to be able to actually convert those resources and cast those cards and let them win the game. The question, Riki, is if he can actually get all of those cards out of his hand fast enough and actually have him do something.
Well, one question I got is, did he bring in the Supreme Verdicts? Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really... Again,
he has fantastic here.
He has 2 of those in his sideboard, and you really are wondering if he did bring those in because those would change this game dramatically.
Or did he bring in the Singleton Silklash Spider?
Yeah.
That could be huge.
That would hold the fort down as well.
Just hurricane the heck out of those resto agents.
Yep. So McCarl, again, last card in his hand to Angel Serenity. You see him move his lands around. So he has access to a Gavany Township and Vault of the Archangel's activation.
Oh, wow. He can do both here? Yeah, he can do both. And as you said last turn, it looked like I think both of the Restoration Angels attacked Jinx, right?
Yeah, which I was a little surprised about that. And Shrout just might be using that to his advantage and just say, hey, yeah, you need to take care of this. When I don't actually think that that's the case.
Because Andrew's at 10. You just attacked him last turn. He would have gone to 8. Ooh.
So now he's pulling the trigger.
Finally.
On Angel Serenity.
Finally. And what did he point to there? The 2 Smiters and the Arbor Elf?
And now we know again that, we know that Shrout has Celestia Charm in his hand. So now he is doing some math here about when do I want to cast this Celestia Charm? How do I want to cast it? He's going to untap a land. He untaps his breeding pool. We might just let him see this resolve now. So it is going to resolve. Angel Serenity is going to get the goodies. And how is Shrout going to use the Celestia Charm? Is he going to make it 2/2 Knight? Is he going to use the exile creature 5 or greater? Is he going to give one of his guys +2/+2? He's got a lot of options. And here comes McCarl with... He's even coming in with the Arbor Elf, so feeling a little frisky.
Okay. Why not? Every decision here matters, so just throw in another variable. Andrew's at such low life total that I don't think he can afford to put a Prime Speaker in front of Arbor Elf, right?
I can't imagine that that's the case. I mean, he could put the Prime Speaker in front of Arbor Elf, chump block the Thragtusk with the Avacyn's a Pilgrim, and then take 6 and go down to 4. That's certainly a line of play, but how good is that line of play if you look into the future 1 or 2 turns from now? That's, I think, the question that Shrout's asking himself right now, and that's why his turn is taking just a little bit here about how he wants to block. It's a very important decision.
Moving forward, Prime Speaker Zagana. 1/1 Merfolk with 4+1/+1 counters on it. Now he pulls it back. Maybe a pre-combat Selesnya Charm to make that 2/2 Knight. No, Simic Charm. No, that's Selesnya Charm.
You see Shrout trying to figure out what mode to pick on this charm. This is such a big, crucial point in this game about what to do with this card. He's going to exile Thragtusk, it looks like, and Prime Speaker's going to get the chance to eat Arbor Elf.
Okay, so now he can definitely block the Arbor Elf. Take 6 in the air, go down to 4. And that 2 damage from the turn where the Restoration Angels attack Jace could be a key here. He's counting his mana.
Never a good feeling if you're the opponent.
You have to expect, what, a Sphinx's Revelation here?
5.
All
8.
of it? All of it? No, hold some back because he has to calculate his outs.
This feels like Angel of Serenity to me. Yeah.
Oh.
So Serenity now. He's going to take
All
care
the flyers.
of the flyers.
All your flyers belong to me.
Oftentimes, Ricky, it is the second Angel of Serenity that ends up winning the game, not the first one. So you see the second Angel of Serenity much more backbreaking than the first one here. Shrout's going to tick Jace up, have the -1, -0 happen, and now you look at McCarl's board, he's got an Avacyn's Pilgrim, he's got a Beast Token, yes he has Gavin Township, yes he has Vault of the Archangels, but he does not have very much going on, and if you're Shrout, you want to try to turn the corner and get this game over with.
3 mana. He's probably going to accelerate here? No, Smiter. Yeah, he got the Smiter back when Morgan's Angel of Serenity went away.
I love this stat, yeah. You want to try to close the door now that you've got this huge advantage, because again, McCarl has no cards in his hand. He's got these 2 creatures, he's got the 2 relevant lands in Vault, the Gavin Township, and he draws what looks to be a lingering Souls for the turn.
Morgan can still play defensive here with his lands, with his Vault of the Archangel.
I could be wrong about that name. That may not have been Lingering Souls.
What did you see? You saw a white card?
Thought I did.
It could be a Restoration Angel. I think the promo version has a little bit of a... Well, I will find out. He's going to have to cast it here.
It's definitely a spell. I am dying to know what this is.
He keeps spinning it.
He's doing a sufficient job of hiding it, that's for sure. He doesn't want anyone to know except for him. Doesn't want a single person to know. He's spinning it around and round we go. And he's just gonna... He just passes the turn back, okay. So maybe this is not something relevant. Maybe it is Restoration Angel. Maybe it's just a trick.
Oh, Restoration Angel... How relevant is that here? Does he have enough mana to... Yeah, he can... Looks like he can activate Vault and cast the Angel.
Very interesting. That one card. So Shrout's going to play an Arbor Elf. He's going to tap some more mana here. As you already saw him tick up Jace Architect of Fog. Now here's a Thragtusk, going to put him at a much more comfortable 9 life. So now here's 4 mana, and now here is a Garruk Relentless. So, a lot of spells in one turn. Garruk is going to fight that Avacyn's Pilgrim. You see McCarl's going to float a mana.
Oh, wait. 5?
So he's going to give his guys Death Touch. So Garruk is going to flip into the Veil Cursed. Of course, giving a Death Touch is not going to kill the Garruk because it's not a creature. Because that would mean that a Death Touch creature would just kill the opponent in one hit.
Yeah, so, that would be a little weird.
So that's not going to happen. And now you've got Shrout attacking with a lot of creatures.
So I think what's going on here is Andrew is verifying whether the Vault of the Archangel effect does anything if a Restoration Angel is flashed. just making sure, and it's not going to. And
Alright, so township activation. This is going to allow McCarl to gain another life.
Right.
This creature has death touch. So he's able to take down Prime Speaker. A bunch of damage is going to come across. He's going to gain a bunch of life. And that Thraktos is going to bite the dust. So after the dust settles here, you see Shrout with 2 Planeswalkers. He's got an Angel Serenity, a Thraktos, you know, a couple of Mana Accelerants. McCarl draws his card. And again, wondering what... Okay, so that card in his hand was a Ray of Revelation.
Ray of Revelation.
That was not Intangible Virtue. It was not Lingering Souls. It was Ray of Revelation. So let's address the first thing. Andrew Shrout wins this match, 2-0. He's moving on to 6-0 on Prime Speaker Bant, a deck that he won a classic with in Louisville, our actual largest classic ever. So he is very well trained in this deck and his build of it. Morgan McCarl, he loses 2-0 with Junk Reanimator. But let's talk about this Ray Revelation and why he may have brought this in.
Well, it had to be for the, he was expecting some ground seals, right?
Yeah, maybe he's expecting ground seal, maybe he's expecting Detention Sphere. Again, Prime Speaker Bant is a deck that, again, when Matt Sperling and Paul Reitzel had, when Sperling had won his PTQ with this deck a couple months ago, they had 4 Detention Spheres in their deck. 4. So to see Ray of Revelation come in here, and as you mentioned, ground seal, it's not terribly surprising, but it's one of those cards where it's either going to be really good or really bad.
Yeah.
Depending on when you draw it in the game, and he doesn't have any real control over it, does McCarl, when he's going to draw that card. So you saw him draw it at the most inopportune time that game where he needed to top deck something good, and he top decked a card that had no effect on the game.
The weird thing about that game, the way it played out, it went on for quite some time, but Morgan McCall never got his graveyard.